It's a little early, but let's just start out. Okay. Okay. What we want to do next, we're going to put the server.js on the back burner for just a couple minutes. Okay. Years ago, when I was teaching at another school, the language that we used for server-side development was PHP. Okay. You may or may not have heard of the language. It's not that important. But the point is, many of the second-year students loved it because when they were creating web pages, you had to put the same stock stuff in your head every time. You had to put the same stock stuff typically in the footer and in the header, etc. And this gave us a way that you didn't have to do that. And that's what we're going to do right now. And those things, they're just partial. They're parts of a program. There's like, for instance, there's a header and a footer. It's the stuff you put at the top and it's the stuff you put at the bottom, basically. All right. So this is what we're going to do here. We're going to create a header and we're going to create a footer. All right. So, and like I said, when we get this, you're probably still going to get an error when that runs, but that's hopefully the rest of us can get better. And if nothing else, I'll copy mine over to yours and we'll see if we can, if that runs. Okay. All right. So what I'd like you to do is under this layouts folder right now, we've got this thing called main.hbs, and that's all that's in there. I think you'd agree with that. But I want us to put another folder under our layouts folder. So I'm right mouse clicking on the layouts folder and I'm choosing new folder. And again, what I'm giving you is by convention. People usually call this partials, P-A-R-T-I-A-L-S, because it's a partial type of file. Okay. All right, so we've got partials. Now we're going to create two different files to put in there. So underneath partials, we first want to go in and we want to create a new file. And the first one we'll create will be called header.hbs. And you may have already guessed, the second one that we're going to create under there is going to be called footer.hbs. All right. This will be the header that we will want to appear on each page. This will be the footer that we'll want to appear on each page. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Now, I had you remove those HTML files before. And so what we're going to do is we're going to open up a browser window and we're going to go back out like we did yesterday to getbootstrap.com. And under getbootstrap.com, we're going to go to the Get Started section. So click the Get Started button and go down about halfway and find the starter template. All right. Now, we're not going to grab all of it though, because really what we care about more than anything else, all right, is pretty much the stuff that's up to, I don't know, the stuff that we want through the beginning of our body section. Okay? That looks so funky. I don't know. All right. So I'm going to grab just this stuff all the way through my head section right now. Okay? And I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. So I highlighted it and I'm doing a Control-C. You can do it whatever way you do copy and paste. And then I'm going to go back again into VS Code, and I'm going to make sure it's your header file, not your footer. But in my header file, this isn't done yet, but for now, that's what I want. All right. And hello world is stupid. If we have time, we're going to go over how to use variables in here. And if we don't have time, we'll do it on the next program. All right. But for now, we're just going to put in here something like stock market app. You can put whatever you want. Stock app, stock market app. It doesn't really matter. Okay. And we're going to add a couple of other things in there fairly soon, in just a couple of minutes. Okay. All right. So let's do a file, save. All right. And I'm going to hit enter a couple times because we're going to put some more stuff down here in just a bit. All right. Then let's go to the other file that's here, the footer.hbs. All right. Now, we're going to write this ourselves because it's only like 6 lines of code. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and say footer. And inside of here, I'm going to have a div with a class that's equal to container. And inside of that div, we're going to put a paragraph. And in the paragraph, I'm just going to have it say something like stock market app, ampersand, copy, 2021 by, put your name in here, please, not mine. And then put on the end like all rights reserved. I'll go and wrap that. Okay, just something like that. That's totally fine. Now, actually with our footer, that's pretty much done. Okay, so at the bottom of each page, that's what we're going to have. Okay. And by default, it's going to be light. If you want it light, if you're happy with that, leave it like that. But let's say you're not, so I can come in here and put in class equals footer BG dark. Now, if you're happy with it light, then just leave off this part. But you should put the class equal footer in there. Did you all hear me? Why? Because remember this file that we had in here in public? We say class equal footer. In our public, in our CSS styles, there's our footer. Okay, does that make sense? All right, close that. So this part is done, so I'm just going to do a file, save. All right. All right. Now, I don't think we're going to have to do anything else with the footer, so I'm just going to close it. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back again into my header file. So I'm going back to my header, and I'm going to add a little bit of stuff in here. How? Well, to make it simple, I'm going to go back again into Get Bootstrap. All right. And in Get Bootstrap, I'm going to go down to Components. And under Components, I'm going to go down to Navbar. All right. And it really doesn't matter too much which one of these we pick. All right, but I don't really need this drop down and this disable, so I'm going to look for something that's got a little less in it than that. So let's see. That one actually didn't look bad. That doesn't look bad. Drop down. Yeah. So I'm going to just grab the one. So right under where it says nav right here. Everybody see where I am? All right. This one doesn't look too bad. I'm going to just remove the one that says, the thing that says disabled. But I'm going to grab all of this nav that's in here. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. All right. And I'm going to go back into VS Code. And right underneath this, don't even worry about putting in the word body or anything else. Okay. Just paste that in. Of course, mine didn't paste. That's terrific. Yours hopefully did. So, copy. Try it again. And paste. All right. Now, a couple things about this. Since I made my footer dark, I may want to come in here and make my header dark too. You don't have to do that. You can do that. You can leave them both light. I think you all remember this, but remember with Bootstrap how you had the different colors, like when we looked at buttons and you could have primary and secondary, etc. You can do the same thing in here. So you can set your nav bar to primary. All right, so if you wanted a royal blue one in your footer, so you can do all that stuff. I'm just going to make them both dark. All right. Now, I don't want this container fluid means that it's supposed to try to stretch 100% of the way. I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to get rid of that where it says the container. Right there. Okay? And this is kind of silly. Nav bar doesn't really mean anything to me. So I'll just put in here, I don't know, you can put stock app, stock market app. Okay, put something in there, something that makes some sense to you. Okay? All right. You may or may not remember this stuff from last semester. All right? But basically, this is what we need to set up our nav bar. Anything that you see in there, and there'll be some stuff that'll say ARIA. That all means it's being done for people who have impairments. They're either sight impaired, hearing impaired. Typically, it's sight impaired. All right. Also, you'll notice if we look up here, we've got ID equals nav bar nav. All right. And some of this stuff we end up using later on, and you've got to make sure you give it the same name. See that? So again, all these ARIA, sometimes called ARIA, different things, that's all set up for people who have impairments. All right. Now, when we look in here, we're gonna make changes here. Like what? Well, this is fine. We don't want it to go anywhere if we're on the home page. Would you agree with that? So change the word features to the word home. All right. So I changed the word features here to the word home. Next, this is going to be our about page. So I'm going to put in here about. Now, you've got your choice. You can leave it like this, or you can put in about.html. Does that make sense? And if you put in about.html, it's going to, right now, until you've got an about page, it's not going to work. Does that make sense? All right. So you can do it either way. In fact, what we have to do here, just so you know, we're going to change this. We're just going to put ./home here. That means that what we want to do is we want to run from our home directory, which we set up to be in here, our views directory. We want it to run the home.handlebars file. Does that make sense? All right. And we'll come in here. And even if you don't have it yet, it's not going to hurt anything. ./about. And this last one, we don't want the word disabled in there. We don't want that word in there. We instead want this to say href equals. All right, we got to stop that after nav link. We want it to look just like the other ones. And this will be ./contact. And the word here will be contact. So when we get this working, what that'll mean is up at the top, when we have our brand up here, it's going to say Stock Market App. All right, and then we're going to have 3 links. We're going to have one link that says home, one that says about, and one that says contact. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, what is supposed to happen, I'm saying what is supposed to happen, is if you come in here and you put in ML-auto, what that is supposed to do, it doesn't seem to always work. And yesterday it worked for 2 students and it didn't work for 3. You know, explain that one to me, because I don't understand that. We're typing in the same stuff. That is supposed to take these 3 things and push them all the way to the right. Now, if you don't like that, then just leave it off. But otherwise, what you're going to have is you're going to have your brand where it says Stock Market App, and immediately right next to it, you're going to have your 3 links. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Okay, I'm just going to leave that. So as far as I know, we're done with our header.hbs. Okay, now if again for some reason this doesn't work, I don't know why it wouldn't, but if for some reason it doesn't work, if nothing else, what I'll do is I'll give everybody a copy of my code, but this is what I went through, this kind of painstaking stuff to get it all to work. All right. All right, so again, I'm going to do a file, save, and I'm going to close my header. So right now I've got nothing open, which is totally fine with me. All right, so far we are most of the way through with our server.hbs, plus we went into our partials, and in our partials we created both our footer.hbs and we created our header.hbs. All right, so for the next one, let's open up our main.hbs. All right, it's got a lot of stuff in it. We're going to change that right now. So no matter what you've got in it right now, just highlight all of it and remove it. Okay. Now we're going to do some typing. It's 13 lines, so it's not like that's going to hurt anybody. And in fact, we only have to type in about half of these. What do I mean? I'm going to show you right now. All right. So we're going to come in here and we're going to put in our beginning body, okay, with nothing in it, right there, just like that. Remember that this main thing, basically, this is going to show exactly our order that we want to do things. And if you say I don't understand, then hopefully you will in just a second. We put in 2 curly braces and a greater than sign and the word header. So that says the first thing we want to appear is our header. All right. And what that should do is it should run this one right here. See this? It should run this one right here. Then, no, not footer next, because that would be silly. We wouldn't have any body content. So next we come in here and we put in body. And then finally we put in the footer. All right. Now, 2 more things that we have to do. One is, well, what do we always, what's the last line in every HTML file? The ending HTML tag, right? So we need that. All right. Then the other thing that we need, so open yourself up a line right here. Okay. And I'm going to go back to Get Bootstrap. And in Get Bootstrap, I'm going to go back up to the Getting Started section. And we're going to find that template again. All right. And down at the bottom of the template, I'm going to just, again, we can use either one of these, right? Remember this? We can use either one. I'm just going to use option 1. I think it'll be okay. And I don't see the need for copying in the other lines because they're commented out anyway. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back into here, and then I'm going to paste it in here. All right, and again, I will turn on word wrap. All right. So what this is saying is this is our main HBS file. And what this is saying is for every file that we create, so we're about to create index.hbs, then we will create about.hbs, then we will create contact.hbs. And what this is saying is I want to take what's in those files and put it right there. Okay, so that's that file. So right now we've done footer.hbs, we've done header.hbs, we've now finished main.hbs. Again, I'm going to do a file, save all, okay, and I'm going to close that. All right, now we have to put in, for lack of better words, what's going to be unique on every page. Does that make sense to you? All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is underneath views here, we've got a home.hbs, but we don't have, under views, we don't have an index.hbs, we don't have a contact.hbs, we don't have and about.hps. Do you agree? So we're going to make those right now. So right under layouts, I'm going to right mouse, whoops, on layouts. Come on, click on layouts, Jeff. And right under layouts, I'm going to right mouse click and choose new file. And first index.hps. So there that is. Then under layouts, I'm going to click again and do a new file and do about.hps. And then I'm going to do it one last time. And I'm going to put in contact.hps. Now, one thing, just so you know this, you should be able to tell by the indentation here that footer and header belong to partials. Plus, if I close partials, you see that they leave and the other two don't. Let's just pretend for a second, all right, just so and again, this, you may never need to know this, but just so you know it. Let's suppose that this about.hps was supposed to be under CSS. Are you with me? We're just pretending for a second. You literally can click on it and drag it up to that folder. And it'll say to you, do you want to move it there? Okay? Or you can, right mouse click on it. There's no, I don't think there's a move option. Maybe I'm wrong, but there isn't. Okay? All right. So now we've got, right now, we have done this. We already, we've got about, we've got contact, we've got index. We've done our main. Okay? So that one's done. That's good. Let's just do them in order. So let's go to the index one first. Now, I want to mention something to you. The way that I set mine up, and what I do want is for you not to copy what I did. I don't want your index page to look like mine, or your about page to look like mine, or your contact page. I want them to look like yours. In other words, I want you to add your own spin, your own unique touches onto that, okay? But what I did is it was getting to be a pain in the butt to look up these symbols all the time, all right? So what I did was I went out to a website, and I found on that website like it was like the 200 most used stock exchange symbols. And I went through that list and I grabbed ones that I thought, yeah, that, like Anheuser-Busch for here, American Family Insurance type of things, things like that. And I listed, so we're not going to do this, but this is what I did. If you look on here, I listed 73 different ones. So they're here. And on the next page, that whole next page. See that? I'm not going to have you do that. And one nice thing is, instead of us having to worry about typing in 101 lines, we're going to type in about 15. Okay? But we'll just put like an H1 tag or something in there that says, to be provided. Does that make sense? And that just means that that's what you're going to put in for that stuff. All right. So, for lack of better words, we're in the body right now. We've already got the header. We're in the body. Okay? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make a main tag. Not there. In here, I'm going to make a main tag. All right? And we can put almost anything we want in there. I'm hoping we have enough time that on Monday I can show you the variables in here. So we're going to put the variables in even if we don't use them. Okay? And so let's put this line in, and if you don't understand it, I'll explain it in just a second. Okay, so just put that line in first, if you would, please. I think it would be nice if we had an H1 on each page. So if we're on the main page, it says home page or something like that. If we're on the about page, it says about. If we're on the contact page, it says contact. Does that make sense? Well, by default, since all of these are sharing everything, we have to have a way to let it know what word to use. And that word here will be title. That makes sense because it's at the beginning. So we're setting up, for lack of better words, It has nothing to do with this. That's CSS. It has nothing to do with that. We're making a variable that's named title, and we're going to have that hold whatever we want it to hold for whatever page we're on. And again, if it doesn't make sense, then hopefully when we get a little further on with this, it will. All right. So I put a blank line in here. I'm going to have a div class equal container. And inside of here, I put another div with a class that's equal to Jumbotron. And I wanted it centered. So text dash center. Remember, this is the same as text align center in quote regular CSS unquote. All right. So again, if you look up on the screen here, please, for a moment, I'm going to bring something up and just get rid of it right away. But under our views, our CSS, we've got our styles. That's how I'm doing the Jumbotron. Yours will be different. I don't want yours to be yellow like mine is with white writing, or with black writing rather. I don't even care if you reverse it, make it black with yellow writing or something, but I want it to be a reflection of yours. Does it make sense to everybody that I want the whole website to flow? In other words, I want the colors, the fonts, etc. I'm expecting you might want to go out to Google Fonts and grab. I didn't do all that stuff. All right, but it's stuff you know how to do because we've done it before. All right, so inside of our Jumbotron, I've got another H1, and we got another variable here. Stock dot company name. And then we will put after that a parenthesis and two more of these. Stock dot symbol. And then end our H1. Okay? Now, what is this? Why are we doing this? Again, I'm going to go back to here. Okay? We're telling it to go in here and find the company name. There's the company name, right? And then we're also telling it to find the symbol. So that should be coming back and saying Facebook and whatever, and then in parentheses FB. Does that make sense? And we're putting that in as an H1 to delineate and let the user know near the top of the page what company we're working with. Now, it could be when you do this, you might say, hey, wait a minute, Jeff, one thing you've always told us, you shouldn't have two H1s on the same page. So we can make it an H2. All right, that's totally fine if you want to do that. Then make it an H2. It doesn't really matter because what we're talking about right now is the ability to go out to a website, find an API, grab information from that API, and bring it back into our program. It's not how big the thing is. All right, that really, in many ways, it's immaterial right now for what we're doing. All right, so this is what I used in here, just so you know, this is what I used. You're going to want to change this because I'm sure there's going to be at least something that I included that you think I wouldn't include that, then don't. All right, so I'm going to put in, and I put them into strong tags. All right, I've got 6 of these. So I'm just going to copy to make my life a little easier. You can put as much stuff in here as you think you need. I don't want to say as much or as little. I want to say as much because this is information that we're going to be putting in about Facebook. So you look through that stuff and figure out what you think is the most important. This is what I came up with. And again, you may agree, you may not agree. So I said here, primary exchange. So in other words, is that a NASDAQ stock? Is it a New York Stock Exchange stock, etc.? So that's the first thing I put in here was primary exchange. And I'm sorry, I put colons at the end of each one of these. So colon. Then after that, a space, 2 curlies, stock, dot, primary, exchange. So again, let me turn on word wrap. And for now, at least, let me close this. All right. So that's the first thing. And it would be kind of nice to put a line break afterwards. Okay. What I want you to understand, and hopefully you already do, is when you look at this line, line 8, every time that we're using those double curly braces, we're telling it to break out of HTML mode and go out and grab something that we have brought back from the internet. Okay? And stock is what we're going to end up calling it just a bit, because to me that made sense. We could have called it anything. But again, if I go back here, what you're going to notice, it should be primary exchange, NASDAQ. Okay? So that's what should print there when we do that. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. All right. Then we've got price. And I'm going to copy this because it's easier for me with a space. In fact, let's make it latest price. I don't like just price. So basically that's its price right now. Does that make sense? All right. And we want this to be stock dot latest price. Now I'm not going to keep going back there, but again, this is what you're going to be going through to be digging stuff out. Does that make sense? All right, you figure out, like I said, what you think is the most important or not important. All right, next, previous close. All right, and that's what it is previous close. Next, 52-week high. And this is called week 52 high. Oops. Come on, week 52 high. And 52-week low. And then finally, market cap. Like I think I said that before, that's what the company is worth. And it's stock market cap. Now, again, I'm just asking, does it make sense to everyone that right now that's what's going to go in the Jumbotron? All right, so you remember what those Jumbotrons look like? We've already said it's going to, usually it's that gray thing. So in other words, it's right. Of course, I'm sure I went right by it, but maybe I didn't. All right, so there's a Jumbotron right there. Remember those? So ours is going to, and you can go in on with your own CSS. I already gave you a Jumbotron class. If you want it wider, narrower, change whatever. All right, but right now it's going to be yellow. It's going to have black text, and it's going to have those 6 things in it. All right, so that's what right now I should have on my homepage. That's it, but that's right now what I should have. All right. Then I added another div down here that I said equal to a class equal to home content. It's the home page, and it's the content I'm putting out here. And this is what I'm going to put in here, okay? I'm just going to put in a paragraph. It says, students will put their own content in here. Does that make sense? Because like I said, I think it's silly for us to sit there, and even if I gave them to you, for you to copy this, I don't want yours to look like mine. I don't like the way mine looks. I just never changed it, that's all. All right, and at the bottom, let's see, I'm looking at this, and if you noticed here, I've got a div. This ending div for my container class, that should be at the very bottom. So I'm going to move all of this stuff over. Okay, and then I'm going to put my ending div for my container class right there. Try it again. So when you look at this, because you can see it all, okay, that's the whole thing. It's 20 lines long. So there's my delimiters for main and main, my div and my div, my div and my div, my div and my div. Now, if it helps you, because I've been doing this a lot lately, you know, is you put a comment over here if you want to. If you don't, then don't. But I'm just going to say something like end Jumbotron div, if that helps. Again, you don't have to do that, but you can do that. Okay? So we now have our index.hbs page. Questions on that? Any questions? All right. Then let's do, because it's next, let's do our about page. All right. Now again, it's about 40 lines, but we don't have to copy all 40 of those lines in, just so you know. All right, so I'm gonna do a file save all, or save, and I'm gonna close this one. I don't like to have more stuff open than I really need to have, so close that too. I'm just gonna, all I've got open right now then are my about.hbs and my contact. Again, I'm gonna start this out by putting in a main tag. All right, and again, just like we did before, in fact, I closed it, but I could just copy it too. So h1 id equals title. All right, does that look familiar? That's the same thing we did on the other page. Okay, and again, I'm going to have a div with a class that's equal to container. And I'm going to close it on the bottom. So I'm just putting in some space just so I don't screw that up. All right. Okay. Now, what I put in next was a carousel. Did you hear me? You don't have to do that. But I put in a carousel. And again, I had a picture of literally the Wall Street sign, and I had some picture, a picture of, so you can put in there whatever you'd like to put in there. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, good. All right, then after that, so I'm just going to put a comment here. Put in carousel or other. It doesn't matter, okay? It really doesn't matter what you put in there, okay? All right. Then, just like I showed you before, then I came down here and put in another div. And that div, I again called class equal about content. All right. And you don't have to do this, but I'm just gonna put it in so you've got something in here. You with me? Now I went in and looked. I don't remember if they had anything like this, but I thought I looked and they didn't. Put in stock market Ipsum. Try lorem ipsum. So I don't see one. So I'm just going to go to the regular Lipsum. What is it? Lipsum.org and something like that. and I'm going to go in and grab 3 paragraphs. Okay, I'm going to generate that, and I'm going to grab them all. We've done this kind of thing many times before, so there's nothing new here. And I'm going to paste them in here, and I'm going to make sure at the beginning of each one, I put a p tag, and at the end of each one, oops, I put an ending p tag. Now, I'm not going to take the time to pretty this up, but you get the idea, correct? All right, so there's the first one. There's the second one. And there's the third one. All right, then I want to end my div, and I already am. And my final div, and end my main. So right now, this is going to look probably pretty bad because it's just all text. Okay. And again, you can do whatever you want to do with this. You can pretty this up. Again, I know I keep sounding like a bad record, but I want this to look like yours. In other words, I just want you to put in what you want to put into it. Maybe you'll decide on the About page you need very little text. And maybe, yeah, it's like, wow, you put way too much text in here. Then don't have that much. It's totally okay. So that's good. I can fix up the other ones as well. Everybody's with me, right? All right. So I'm going to save. And now I've got my second page. Now, before I close this, I am going to grab everything up until right there. I'm going to copy that to the clipboard because I want to put that into my About page, or my contact page in just a minute. Okay? So I'm just going to grab that, Control-C to copy, and I'm going to go to the About page, which is empty, put that in. Now I've got a main. I've got my, oh crud, I put everything in my About page. I put it into my contact page. Do you believe that? Yes, you do believe that. Oh. There. Okay. So I'll grab this again. Paste that in. Now I'm in my About page. Starts off the same. Okay. Class equal container. I'm going to put in my ending div. And I'm going to put in my ending main. Okay. Now, inside of here, very little that we have to do. I'm going to go back again to Get Bootstrap. All right. And inside of Get Bootstrap, I'm going to go down under Components, and I'm going to find Forms. Oh, it's above Form. It's above Components. I'm sorry. So I'm going to go to the Overview for Forms and grab a form. We could grab the first one. I mean, I'm hoping, this will be like a contact type of form. You know what I'm saying? So that you want to grab one of the ones that's in here. Now, I don't particularly like this one that's in here, but it's the first one, and I'm just going to grab that one. Where is it? Right there. See this one? So that's what we'll have in there. Email address, password, check me out. So with all that, I'm going to click on the copy button. I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to paste that in. Again, I've got to do some work as far as formatting this. Do you guys know that there is a thing in here? You know where the extensions are, right? So if you go to extensions, there is one in here that I've used before. It's called Prettier. All right. And notice it says code formatter using Prettier, and there's VS Code. I think it is this one. All right. It looks like I've got it in, but I didn't think I had to turn it on. But it's not really formatting my stuff. All right. So, to my knowledge, let me close this. we now have everything done except for one thing, and that is we've got to go back and we've got to make some changes. We got to make some changes to our server.js file. Okay. Now I'm looking here, and I don't know if this is going to work or not. Knowing my luck, it probably isn't, but I'm going to try it anyway before we take another break. And that is, I'm going to go out again to localhost : I don't know what number I was using on mine, so I better find it out. And come on, server.js. I was using port number 4567. All right. No such file or directory.
Yeah, same there.
Okay, we'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it. Users, desktop, stock node, layouts, main. Okay, it's because, well, let's see. Layouts, main. HPS. Layouts. Well, there's layouts. If I close my partials, there's a main.hps. It's right there. Okay. Main.hps. Shouldn't have to save. No such file or directory. Let's see, all users. Well, the stock node views. Stock app node. How did I get views on there? Did you get views on yours?
Yeah. Stock node app views, like the two names.
It should be dash views. That's the
Yeah.
problem. All right. It should be slash views. So let's go back in here and look. All right. And let's see. Where would that be? Go back into my server file. Use dash layouts. That's good. I wonder if that has to be /home. I didn't think it did, but I'm going to check and see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, we'll just keep looking. All right. Nope, that wasn't it. All right. But my guess is if that doesn't work, the other ones aren't going to work either, so we'll have to fix that. All right. But what should come up on here, okay, is not main, but what should come up here is our home.hbs. All right. And it should have the nav bar in it, and the nav bar should have home, and it should have about, and it should have contact, and we should be able to iterate to those pages as well. All right. All right. Well, we'll see if we can figure that out. And if we can't figure it out, I'll figure it out this weekend, but I think we'll be able to figure it out. Okay. All right. So the only thing that's really left to do in here, there's actually one more file we could put in here if we wanted to, and it would be kind of a nice thing to do. And that is, if somebody requests a file that isn't there, it would be nice to show them, like, just to have our own page for a file not found page. Does that make sense? All right. So I think what I'll do is I'll come back into here, and where we've got all of our home and our main and our index, etc. All right, you already know this. It's inside of layouts. I'm going to click on layouts, I'm going to right mouse click and do another new file, and I'm going to call this file not found.hbs. And this is a whole whopping 4 lines long. They have main again, and they have that H1 with the title again, ID equals title. And then just one line of code. I just put it into a paragraph. You can put anything you want here. Sorry. Oops. File not found. And that's it. All right. So the only thing that we have 2 things left to do. I mean, other than make this work. But the other thing we have to do, and it's probably the hardest thing, is to go and explain the logic, the rest of the logic that's in server.js. So right now our server.js is 38 lines. My whole server.js was about 80 lines. So we've got about half of server.js done. Okay? All right, it's a little early, but since this is a natural place to break, so it's 2:03, let's come back at 2:15. All right, we'll just pick it up then. And I'll go till about 3 o'clock, and then I'm going to give you 55 minutes that you can just sit and work on this. And I'm going to try to see if I can debug this during that time. If I can, I'll let you know what I found. Okay.